Shrugging Dr. Beverage Company is a manufacturer of wine, cider, mead, coolers, other things like that, founded in early 2017 in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, by two individuals, Willows, Christopher, that is me, and Zach Isaacs, my partner. And I will be narrating the first little early part of our company history today. So although we opened in 2017, the project started much before that. So let's take a trip back to the ancient time of 2014. So me and Zach met each other when we were about 12 at the beginning of middle school. We spent most of our time in school getting into shenanigans together. Neither of us really took our public education seriously at all. Zach dropping out in grade 12, and I did stick it out and graduated with a 48% average that they rounded up because they didn't want to see me again, was a quote from the administrator. This, combined with my kind of nihilistic view on life and my overall bad behavior, I guess, kind of didn't vibe with my parents, who were both public school teachers. And that culminated with us parting ways and me moving out of their house right when I turned 18 years old in 2014. So I'm sure you can imagine 18-year-old moving out and renting a house with 5 other 18-year-olds. We had quite a few people in and out. We were drinking, we were partying, we were messing around a lot.
Really sleazy. Come here, you fucking dirty dog.
Probably 5 or 6 nights a week, we had the house filled with people and we're drinking. Then, people would pass out on the floor. We would wake up in the morning, kick them awake, turn on the Xbox, and start drinking again.
You know me.
It's Willows, by the way, if you don't remember.
Me and Zach discovered that we had like a newfound freedom, moving away from our parents. So we were able to purchase some home winemaking equipment to store in the basement of the house that we rented. So we made wine, cider, mead, sangria, coolers, basically rudimentary versions of all the products that we would later, or most of the products that we would later produce commercially, we were producing in the basement and sharing with our friends. So we spent $50 on this equipment total. That was $25 that Zach and I each pitched, and that was the last of our own money that we ever put in to Shrugging Doctor. So we would experiment with different kinds of alcohol, we didn't have any training. We didn't really even drink before that because we were only 18 years old. So we would experiment with different things, different types of drinks that we found on the internet, and we would just share them with the friends that were coming over and drinking in the house anyway. It was a great kind of testing ground for all these inventions. It got to a point where people weren't bringing alcohol when they came over anymore. They're just like, well, I'll just drink your stuff. It's way better. That was light bulb number 1. So this cycle of homebrewing, drinking, partying, sleep, repeat, kind of went on until I had a revelation that stuff like wine or dish soap or cell phone bills or cheese, they all cost money, and I didn't have any income coming in. So I guess it was kind of, we have to make an income, so we have to make money. We can either start a business or get a job. And so I sat down and I thought, okay, what business are we starting? So Zach and I kind of brainstormed it, and we sat down and said, okay, what are we good at? What do we have the resources to do? And what would people pay money for? And we started thinking about all the people that had said, oh, your stuff tastes better than the wine in the store. So we started asking people, hey, would you pay money for this if given the chance? And they said yes. That was light bulb number 2. So unbeknownst to us, 2014 was also a year that there was a lot of deregulation in the Manitoba liquor industry. If you're not familiar, Manitoba has a government monopoly on alcohol sales and distribution. That organization prior to 2014 was called the Manitoba Liquor Control Commission, or MLCC. We still call our liquor marts LCs, even though they haven't been called that in 10 years. They were kind of this governing body that regulated themselves and did all the liquor sales and distribution. So somebody at some point figured, hey, maybe that's not a good idea to have just a billion-dollar organization with unlimited power that regulates themselves. So they got split into a regulatory body and then someone who did the distribution and sales. So that was LGA, Liquor and Gaming Authority, which later got changed to Liquor, Gaming, and Cannabis Authority after marijuana legalization, and MBLL, Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries, who is what they're still called today. So it was much needed deregulation, and after that small amount of deregulation, there was still a huge amount to go. But after that little bit, that was kind of the first thing that jumped off the craft beer industry, and we went from one local craft beer maker to 20 breweries, 2 craft distilleries, a winery, and a cidery by the end of 2020. So when we started to do regulation research and research on how we would get into the liquor industry, it just so happened recent news was all this deregulation. So that was light bulb 3. I kind of described that as a perfect storm. We needed money, and the industry that we had skills in was opening it up and making it easier than ever to get involved in. So Zach and I started writing the business plan that year. Now, keep in mind, we didn't have any, business training. We were pretty much high school dropouts. Our parents weren't interested in business. We didn't really have any family that were interested. And kind of our eyes were bigger than our stomachs when it came to what we could accomplish in business, I think. And in addition, there wasn't even a successful winery in Manitoba, so there was no one we could copy to see, do what they do to get what they got, right? So we got referred by a friend to an organization called Futurepreneur, which is a government-funded organization, and their specialty is funding and supporting small business, especially young entrepreneurs. So they had a loan program that we were able to access. They gave us a loan of $7,500 at pretty low interest, but the important part was that it was deferred payments for a year. So we didn't have to start paying it back until they were also able to broker a deal between us and the Business Development Bank of Canada for an additional $15,000. All the other funding from the business came from, just small loans from friends and family. Our families did eventually come on board with the vision, and were able to give us some money to get through some hard times. But all said and done, we funded the business completely for under $50,000. Now, if you know anything about starting a business, starting a manufacturing operation, or starting a manufacturing operation where your products need to age and can't be sold for a year after you've spent a bunch of money on them, $50,000 did not go very far. So the first step in getting a liquor license in Manitoba was to get a building and get it inspected by Manitoba Health, Manitoba Agriculture, that kind of those organizations. So we found a suitable building on Kijiji, and we did all the renovations, getting it up to snuff ourselves, because we really couldn't afford a contractor or anything like that. Now, neither of us were experienced in anything like this, so the renovations were janky, maybe is being generous. We found ourselves using contact cement to patch holes. We've used plastic wrap to cover panels. Let's say we used a lot of ingenuity when it came to these renovations. It was tricky. We worked a lot of late nights, but we did in fact pass our provincial health inspections with flying colors. But that cost us a fair chunk of money, of our startup. But that was actually ended up being the easiest part of the process. And if only we knew going forward. So the biggest issue that we had while getting liquor licensed right at the beginning was with actually the City of Winnipeg's planning permits and development office to get an occupancy permit for the building. They promised us in a meeting that it would be 5 business days, and that would be it. And we would be good to go. And after 10 months, I was getting kind of worried. But yeah, it took about 11 months to get that permit. For no discernible reason at the time. It wasn't till years later that we found out it was because the permits and planning employees were going to restaurants and cutting their lawn and shoveling their driveway and going to Rona and stuff like that during work hours.
Hours of hidden camera footage showing City of Winnipeg employees taking extended lunch breaks, going on personal errands, and shopping, all on the city's time. 17 employees from the city's Planning, Property, and Development Department were tracked by private investigators who followed them over a 3-month period from January until last month. The footage shows one employee going to Costco for nearly 2 hours before going to a Starbucks for an hour, another spending about 2 hours at the gym, and another snowblowing a driveway. There were plenty of long lunch breaks, smoke breaks, and coffee breaks. The footage was sent to Global News from a group of more than a dozen business owners and contractors, all saying they had bad experiences with inspectors, like long waits for inspections and unprofessional treatment.
Now, we had to wait on our occupancy permit before we could move forward in the liquor licensing process at all. So we were spending rent in a building that we were not using, spending to heat it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And because we thought we were opening in or going to be ready to open in 5 business days, we had got internet and a phone and all this. So we were spending a fair amount of money every month for a building that we couldn't use just because we were being delayed by the city. So that was about $30,000 all said and done in 11 months of money that we just wasted. And that was our, pretty much all our startup money, right? Like on a $50,000 budget, we spent $30,000 of it because the city of Winnipeg acted selfishly and irresponsibly and incompetently, and it almost discouraged and put 2 young entrepreneurs out of business before we even started, which I'm sure it has done in the past to other entrepreneurs. So actually, to get our occupancy permit right at the final stages, it took Zach and I going down to their office every single day for 5 days because I knew it was finished. I knew all it needed was a signature and a stamp. And it had been 11 months, and so we actually went down to their office 5 minutes before they opened every single day for a week, Monday through Friday. They would show up to work half hour late to 90 minutes late, around there, and we'd be waiting in their waiting room in their chairs, every single morning. Begging or demanding, or I think I threatened to throw pocket sand at a government employee one time.
Pocket sand.
I was at wit's end at this point. And finally on Friday, probably because the guy didn't want to work or think about it over the weekend. When we were there on Friday morning, he sighed, looked at us, said, "Come on," went to his office and signed the permit and handed it to us. And it was just on his desk. There was nothing else he had to do. So with them out of our way finally, but with most of our startup money drained, we moved on to the last step in the process, which was getting our liquor licenses from LGA and Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. It was a relatively seamless process, with LGCA being more cooperative than MBLL, but the only thing that was the big problem there was we had a not in my backyard complaint, a NIMBY complaint, with a petition with 15 signatures from, I guess, concerned citizens in the neighborhood that thought a liquor operation, they didn't like the negative connotation that alcohol has, I guess. But we were eventually able to rebuke that and move forward with our permit. And we were issued our final licenses in the waning months of 2016. We then paid our final payments and got all of our equipment in. We had to start smaller than we expected because we wasted all our money on rent in those 11 months that we were delayed by the city. So we actually only started with 3 500-liter fermenters, which are pretty small if you're thinking about any liquor operation. We had a bottle filler, and we had a capper to cap the bottles, which eventually broke because we bought it used. So we started the operation with a hand capper, which I think has done permanent damage to Zach and I's arms and our shoulders both. And a bottle filler that always, you had to hit it right on the right spot to make it go. It would start like the pumps wouldn't work and it would overfill bottles or underfill bottles. We would hand cork them, hand label them, and, get them out to go. So most of the products that we started right on launch were rudimentary versions of products that we had made, in the basement. It was a mead, which is a wine made from Manitoba honey. We had an apple cider, and then a couple other products that we were working on that we've now discontinued. We didn't have any way to properly temperature control the tanks or the building. We didn't have any way to, properly filter or do anything that you really need to do, you really ought to do when making good products. But, we did the best we could, and we pumped out products as fast as we could, because when we opened, January 27th of 2017 was the day that we opened our doors. We had 4 days to pay rent. And we had, about $2,000 less than our rent in the bank account. So in those 4 days, if we didn't sell $2,000 of product, we would go out of business. And spoiler alert, I guess, because I'm talking to you today, we did end up making the rent, but that kind of cycle continued for, we're pretty much still continued 5 years later, but we didn't have enough money at the beginning of the month to pay the bills at the end of the month, and we had to sell as much as possible, to keep going on. Eventually, we were able to actually age products because we didn't need to sell them, in 4 days or go out of business, which made the quality significantly better with the age. We were able to buy a good filter. We were able to buy a good corker. We were able to buy bigger fermenters, and we really kind of honed our craft in the following months to really improve on our products. And I think our products get better and better every single month. I think we've come a long way from being the 18-year-old kids that brewing wine in the basement. But we hope to just keep continuing on and keep growing. After the meads and the ciders, we moved into fruit wines. We had a raspberry, a cranberry, and then we made a lot of fruit wines out of local berries as well. We had strawberry rhubarb wine, we had blueberry wine, we had cherry wine, Saskatoon berry, different things like that. We started working with real fruit, which was great. In late 2017, early 2018, a farmer reached out to us, and we were able to start using his land to grow Manitoba wine grapes, which was a great innovation that no one else had ever attempted that in Manitoba's history. And we, at the end of that year, we produced a few wines made from Manitoba grown grapes, which was awesome, because I always heard, we wouldn't be a real winery if we only made wines from fruit. It took us a few months, but we eventually got stocked in liquor marts, which is the government-run liquor stores in Manitoba. They made it very clear they didn't want to stock us at the beginning. They didn't think our products were very good. But after we sold out in less than a month, they were happy to keep us on. And now, as of recording this, we have 11 products stocked with them permanently in over 85 locations in Manitoba. We ship all through Canada, and we have customers from coast to coast. We always wanted to have a little wine bar, a tasting room in the winery, but we just never had enough money to do it right at the beginning. But in 2019, 2020, we did the renovations, and in late 2020, we opened a wine bar at our location in Winnipeg. I didn't want to get too into specifics about, kind of the operations and the day-to-day. You can get those by following us on social media, Shrugdoc, SHRUGDOC on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I wanted this video to more be about our startup and our mentality. And, we had a scrappy mentality. We had a mentality that we weren't going to lose, and that's the mentality that we keep going forward. That's the mentality that keeps us going. The same kid that was struggling, that we didn't have enough money at the end of the month to pay rent, is the same kid here today that's trying to, do the best we can do. Just make unique products and innovate in the industry. I've had our tagline as the business, revolutionizing liquor forever was our tagline, which was the idea, because a lot of wineries in BC and Ontario and France and Italy, they're all held to these traditions and regulations. But in Manitoba, we have room to really be creative and really create some unique products that you wouldn't see somewhere that's more restricted in what you can make. And we started with 3 tanks of 500 liters each for about a capacity of 1,500 liters. I remember in 2018 we added a tank that was 1,500 liters large, and I remember saying, "Oh well, this is as big as our entire operation was when we started." And now we're adding vats like that every few months. We're about 10 times, maybe 15 times bigger than when we started. And like Zach, with no winemaking training, basically YouTube and forums, was able to learn this entire business and make some great products. And I had no formal sales training, but I think the best training is just kind of getting out there and selling. We used to do more guerrilla sales things. Like one time I dressed up like a doctor and ran around malls in the Forks in Winnipeg, whipping business cards at people. But we never really had a marketing budget when we were starting. We didn't have any money, so it was a lot of just getting in front of people and sampling them. We did a ton of farmers markets, and I didn't sleep. We had, I'd go to meetings and sample people all during the day, and then we would drive delivery until midnight, and then from midnight to 6 a.m. we would bottle, and that was pretty much our entire lives for the first 2 or 3 years of the operation. We couldn't afford to hire anybody till year 3, and Zach and I just did 100% of the work by ourselves. And we came up with our name kind of in that vein where we needed to be innovative, we needed to have ingenuity. And when I think of ingenuity, when I think about entrepreneurial spirit, if you will, I think of the doctor with a cart that went town to town selling elixirs that cure everything. Kind of like how we're selling elixirs that maybe can cure everything. We're so happy to be part of the industry here in Manitoba. We hope it keeps growing. We hope that we're kind of a piece of history in this industry in Manitoba, and we just want to keep on keeping on. And yeah. So thank you so much for being supporters and customers over the years. Zach and I, for risk of sounding cliche, you're making our dreams come true. We never thought we'd be able to get this far, and still every single person that chooses to buy my wine over somebody else's brings me back to that basement where, my friend would go, "Why would I buy something and bring it here? Yours is way better." It's humbling every single time, and we appreciate it. You can check out our products on shrugdoc.com, shrugdoc.com. We ship all across Canada, as I said before. We usually have about 15 different products. We have a lot of seasonal stuff that comes and goes. Thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and cheers.
Even if it breaks me, I won't let it make me frown. I'm falling, but no matter how hard I hit the ground, I'll still smile. I can only build if I tear the walls down. Even if it breaks me, I won't let it make me frown. I'm falling, but no matter how hard I hit